Welcome back to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and we have another very amazing show with my co-host, Suzanne Ross, talking about the upcoming Sedona Ascension retreats and a very special guest. So, Suzanne, do you want to talk about the retreat and then we'll introduce the guest?
Sure. I can do that. And let me just screen share right here. So we have that flyer, and it was on my screen. There it is.
Well, I'm not seeing the flyer. Oh, there it is. Okay,
there we go.
An amazing event in Sedona, March 8th to the 10th, 2024. We have some major people there. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so this is an annual event. I have 2 equinox events a year, and so this is actually going to be our 17th event here in Sedona. And this March event is really more of a large conference at this point. And I've used the byline accelerating consciousness because that really is synonymous with ascension. And I have these incredible luminaries, including Suzanne Giesemann, Linda Moulton Howe, Bashar, Anita Morjani, of course, yourself, Alan, William Henry, Mack, the Hurtaks, who are near and dear to my heart, and some new people we haven't had before, like Mark Anthony, Reuben Langdon, these channelers, Maureen St. Germain, who I love. So what I've done here is I have focused on connecting with the galactics as sort of our extraterrestrial, galactic brothers and sisters. So we're expanding into a galactic ascension. Also, we have near-death experiencers, because this is accessing the ultra-celestial realms with angels, archangels, and so extraterrestrial, ultra-celestial, and then the star ancestors. And so this is sort of the theme for 2024. But I really want to focus now on Suzanne Giesemann, because we've now connected a couple of times, and I'm just really enjoying discovering the parallels on our paths. And she's very much into 21st century spirituality, as she calls it, and universal consciousness that interconnects us all. Welcome, Suzanne.
Hey, thank you both. It's a joy to be here.
Oh, great. Why don't we give people just a little background? Do you want to say it, Suzanne? Which Suzanne?
So, yeah, I just go ahead. I just, I've been looking through her website, and I just love the way that you are merging scientific understandings about consciousness with ancient spiritual wisdom. I'm very much aligned with that, because I really think it helps to have an impact on both the scientific and the spiritual community, and even a mainstream audience, to take sort of the woo out of spirituality and say, no, this is quantum consciousness. And within this field, we're all connected. So, Suzanne, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and, what brought you to this point.
Yes, I'm definitely not a scientist. In fact, at the conference, Mark Anthony, a medium, does a fabulous job of talking about the science and how it merges with spirituality. My background is very unusual for the fact that today I'm a spiritual teacher and a medium. But I spent an entire career as a U.S. Navy officer. I retired with the rank of commander. I was a commanding officer and served at the absolute apex of the United States military as the aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Then I was up close and personal witness on 9/11 to the destruction that day, which started me questioning reality and asking the deeper questions. Why are some people in the wrong place at the wrong time, or so it appeared? And I didn't find satisfactory answers. So I retired from the Navy and literally went off sailing into the sunset with my husband. But I know that life has a way of waking us up when we need to be awakened. And mine came in the form of a horrible phone call that told us that my stepdaughter, Susan, had been struck and killed by lightning. And she was 6 months pregnant at the time. So now I ask those deeper questions again, but I combined it with meditation, because something in me told me there has to be something that animates the body. When I saw Susan at her funeral in the coffin, it was an epiphany for me that there's something that enlivens us. So that was the start of my search in 2006. I began meditating daily and just turned a corner and went in a completely different path. Really, really surprised myself to find out that not only could I connect with Susan, but with other people's loved ones as well. Discovered that angels are real, archangels are real. Really went outside of the military box that I'd been in for my entire life, adult life. And today I'm teaching what I call the awakened way to people to help them come to have the own experience of being not only human.
So when you were in the Navy, you had no interest, no inkling. You were very much a mechanistic, three-dimensional person.
Very much 3D, but I had an interest in astral travel near the end of my career and an interest in mediumship, just dabbling and reading about it. But Alan, I had no idea that would be my path or that I could do that at all. I believed the false belief that you have to be born a medium. And now I know that we all have that ability, but whether or not it's your calling depends on how much you open that up.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And how did you get in touch with your stepdaughter then? How did that come about?
Yeah. Well, the first way was through a medium. I, of course, from dabbling, heard about these people and waited till I found somebody who I knew would be the real deal, someone who could get evidence that she was talking to Susan. I didn't tell her anything about our family, about our last name. Very skeptical, but open. That's the key. And so I went to a medium and she changed my worldview in 1 hour, knocked it on end, gave me absolute proof and awareness that Susan was right there in the room with us. But at that point, I'd already been trying for over a year to connect with Susan myself, just out of sheer hope. So now I knew she was here and I just kept at it and finally had that connection with Susan through my own meditative practice. And then in writing a biography of two really well-respected mediums, attended their classes and discovered how to make that connection possible. And it just opened that up over the years.
So now you teach other people how to make that connection?
I do, not and to anybody. I have actually the majority of my students have no intention of becoming mediums. I have specific classes. This is how to become a professional medium. But I have another class called Personal Mediumship Plus to teach anybody how to tap into your own loved ones, how to tap into guides, attuned to the angels. The plus part is, to me, the most important part, Personal Mediumship Plus, and that's coming to understand who we really are, which makes it possible to understand why we can connect with higher consciousness.
So what's the secret? Can you give us a little taste of like how?
Yeah. But the secret, there are two keys. It's believing that higher consciousness exists and we are a direct expression of that, and then a very clear intention to connect. But then the follow-on to that is creating enough space in your field of awareness, your mind, to notice when higher consciousness and other beings are trying to communicate with you. That's the secret.
So notice, but you have to be aware that there's something to notice, right?
That's right. That's right.
They probably are always talking to us, but we're just...
They absolutely are. Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to fine tune like what, Joe Dispenza would call neural nets of awareness, Bruce Lipton calls that too. Like we have to develop a cognitive application that this is coming to us. And
you just dropped me right into left brain with those words, and I love that those two men, they appeal to left brain people and then help them find the right brain. I was way in the left brain for most of my career, and now I've found the balance, which is the key. So truly, it's just expanding awareness, and that's what the soul is. Our human aspect is limited, constricted awareness. The soul is already here. You are a soul. This is the point of my main teaching, the Awakened Way. Principle number 1 is you are not only human. So if you're not only human, what are you? You're a soul here and now. And that soul is the more expanded state that we can easily shift into.
Right. Yeah, Suzanne, it's great you're bringing together all these people that it's going to be like a real education for well, people not even new to this, but a kind of a next level, this conference that's coming up. Do you have anything?
Thank you for that, Alan. Yes, I mean, it's important to understand, I believe, for ascension, these different levels, these different realms of reality beyond incarnational realms and into the spiritual realms. Suzanne, can you tell us a little bit about your book, Messages of Hope? And then I see that you also made a documentary that's on Amazon Prime called Messages of Hope.
Yes, that's the initial story of how I made that shift from aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Navy commander, to my current work as a medium and spiritual teacher. And it tells the whole story, more expanded, that I shared with you here, but is filled with evidence from my own readings and connections across the veil that I call NOEs. You're familiar with OBEs and STEs and NDEs, and NOE is my term for a no other explanation story than that we are connecting across the veil. And so Messages of Hope shares the NOEs that convince me and that help others know through connecting with non-physical beings that we are also right now a non-physical being having that physical experience. So the documentary is based on the book. It was professionally done, and in fact, we did a showing in Sedona when it was first showing at multiple film festivals around the country, and won quite a few awards. So it's now available on Amazon Prime and YouTube. So it's great for left brain people. I have a lot of women who are grieving perhaps a child or a sibling or parents, and they want their partners to know they're not crazy, it's not woo-woo stuff. And the documentary is filled with pictures of me in my uniform and then making this switch and accepting the afterlife. And they show it to their left brain husbands. And I know I'm stereotyping, but stereotypes exist for a reason, right? But I am stereotyping that a lot of men are very much in the prove it, show it to me world. And they see that video with the images and they say, so maybe it's okay if I at least listen and open up to the greater reality. And once you do that, buckle your seatbelt, as you both know.
Well, how big is that greater reality? I mean, yeah, there's people who've crossed over, and then there's angel, but how far does your expansive consciousness go? I mean, but talk about, because this is really the simplest level, the 3D, right? And then there's, right. So talk about like that, right? Yeah.
I recently had Suzanne on my podcast, the Messages of Hope podcast, and she has such a wonderful understanding of the different dimensions. I have been told by my guides to just talk about a spectrum and limitless nature. It's all the same thing. We can either put it into dimensions or just take off any limits and just say, what is your intention? And just go experience. How big is it? How big is infinity? We are expressions of a limitless creative source with intelligence beyond our understanding. So why try to limit that? Just open up to whatever's in the greatest and highest good. I say, bring it on in awareness that we are the light. Bring on anything that is benevolent, helpful, and healing.
Wow, I love that message. That's sort of what we all want to do here, is bring it on. How you think the planet is really going to get that, or is it like individual awakenings, or will there be like this mass, oh, of course, type moment?
I've been really enjoying Suzanne's book, Rise Up, and I do believe there will be some kind of tipping point, like the 100th monkey effect, so that we shouldn't give up hope. I channel my guides Sanaya daily and in for large groups. In fact, I'm doing a channeling for charity, if I could just put a plug in there, because it's to raise money for kids with cancer on December 3rd. That'll be posted on my website at any time now, any day now. But I've channeled for over 1,000 people at once, and the message is always the same, that don't give up hope. We've come from the dark ages. We are now in what my guides kind of jokingly but kind of seriously called the dim ages. We can see that when we read our headlines. but dim is brighter than dark, right? So we are definitely turning up the light as each one of us turns up our own inner light. It adds to the grid. And so we don't give up hope. We keep working on ourselves, and hopefully by radiating the highest possible light, others around us pick up on that, and we reach that tipping point at some point where we have a global we need to get our act together.
Is that coming soon? Is that, what do you get a time frame for that, or from dim to light? Just
I'm just checking in as you ask that question.
Yeah.
And the guides say, not soon enough for you, but we are patient. And they show me they can see evolution unfolding. It's like a plant, right? We can nourish it with fertilizer and more water, but it's a process.
How did you go from, go ahead. You have a question, Suzanne?
Yeah, it just occurred to me that, we're talking about these dramatic events that cause our own personal awakening, and, we call it a wake-up call, but typically it's something rather dramatic. And as I was considering the planetary awakening that Alan's referring to, it occurred to me that these very dramatic events that are unfolding can definitely be the wake-up call that we're waiting for a global awakening to occur.
That's right. And we go kicking and screaming when we see what's going on in our world. And would I have wanted to go through my stepdaughter Susan's passing? No way. But have I grown as a result? Beyond belief. And we see the same thing with the pandemic. Who enjoyed that? That was suffering. That was challenging. But look at how we're also awakening from that, and things are changing. People don't like change, but when we stay focused from the heart, evolution occurs.
Well, there was something you said about channeling. How do you go from, medium, hearing stuff, to like then channeling? Is that easy jump, or is that something else that happens?
That unfolds for people naturally as a result of sitting in expanded awareness, call it meditation, if you will, regularly. I explained it in my book how my channeling unfolded, totally unexpected, knocked my socks off to suddenly have this higher being saying to me, speak. And I thought, what was that? And I heard it again, speak. And I remember responding quietly, about what? And the next thing, I opened my mouth and out comes these words and wisdom that was certainly not my own, and gathered a few friends around, and we did that again. And I, over the years, learned to be more at ease with the process, learned to not filter what was coming through, learned to allow spirit to use this vessel to speak. And it's been phenomenal. I need to do it more often, actually, because people have had spontaneous healings from the energy that's present. People cry. The wisdom is beautiful. So channeling is just an even more expanded state than mediumship.
Well, I'm a fan of channeling because that's sort of like my awakening was, listening to this channel and realizing, wow, there's great wisdom. Would you want to do it here, or you need time to prepare?
I could. Well,
no, you don't have to. No
okay.
pressure.
Yeah. We'll see.
All right, we'll see what comes through. But just you as your own self has so much wisdom to share. Are you talking to somebody? Oh, go ahead. You look like
I know. They have been already talking to us, because right before we start, I always make that shift. And I know that anything I say will be hopefully helpful. But when we let higher consciousness guide the conversation and what comes through, it's always better. So when I'm teaching classes, they snag me constantly, make sure my words are just right. And I know that they're present now, but so it's a matter of, do you want just open-eyed channeling, or do you want to, do you want me to make that complete shift?
No, I don't want anything, whatever you're comfortable with. Whatever the message, whatever level, whatever you feel comfortable with. I mean,
yeah. What I heard just now is it is not entertainment, and then that's not what you were asking for. But I'm saying,
no, it's
a lot of people,
for information.
I know, and for me, it gets to the feel. At times, I have the feeling that people want to say, oh, it's channeling, but you're absolutely right. that it's all about what they have to share with us, which they're doing quite well through these answers.
Right,
so.
Because what I realized from channeling, when I first saw my first channel, the channeler said, look, this mystery is not what's coming through this body, it's what's coming through that body. Where's the source of that consciousness? And that's like, oh yeah, where do we all come from? Where are we? Yeah. So, and then there's levels and levels we're graduating to. And
I want to share, you just made me think of something. I got a gift from a friend this week. I don't know if I shared this with you, Suzanne. I don't know if I had it yet. Did I talk about this ring, the one on my middle finger? She gave it to me. She found it in a Native American store. It's called a story ring because the ring in the middle actually moves. And she said, when you get caught up in the story that we're all living our own story here, you can just kind of play with that and remind yourself it's only a story. I thought that was pretty cool because I'm always talking about rising above our story when we suffer. But when I sat in meditation the day after she gave it to me, just about a week ago, I suddenly heard the most beautiful message from my guides that they want me to share with you now. What's cool about this ring is it's the inner part of it that moves, but there's a foundational base that ring is rotating around. And the guide said for all of us, find the place that doesn't move, that is stable and always present. And then you will get much more wisdom than you're ever going to find in the story. So now the ring, the basic bottom of the ring doesn't move at all. That's the place in all of us, the state of awareness that is pure being. Train yourself through a meditative process to just be that part that never changes. And then any story can arise. And we take our focus off the story of Alan, the story of Suzanne, and this Suzanne, and can merge and blend and dance with any other story and find answers and realize we're not alone. That's the fun part of creating.
But why did we come here in the first place? What do you feel? What's the reason for incarnation?
Suzanne Ross nailed it in her book when she said we came here to create and to evolve. See, I'm doing my homework here, but I just read and I said, yes, she gets this. So we as Source said, okay, it's beautiful to just be. Rise up. Yeah. It's beautiful to
hold that up again, Suzanne. Just hold it.
Rise up. Yep. So beautiful to just be, but I say that, people say that we come here for lessons, right? And that makes it at times sound like we're poor students and we need to learn our lessons better. I say this is, if it's Earth School, it's more like creative art school, cooking school, music school, where we take something beautiful that's already been created, that's us, and see what touches we can add to make it even more beautiful. We are, as souls, magnificence itself. And through each choice we make, we get to create something even more magnificence. That's who we are as Source and what we're doing here. And it doesn't always unfold beautifully. And that's because of the choices we're making. And we're interacting with people who aren't using their whole palette of colors.
So we're here to be creators, to emulate the creation we're in. But so many people don't have that opportunity because they're here for survival. So what do you say to those people?
Oh, no. I disagree with that. And you probably said it just as devil's advocate, but everybody has that opportunity. We all are the same Source. We all share the part that never moves, the state of pure being. It's simply awakening to that awareness. For me, it took the death of my stepdaughter. For other people, it's hitting rock bottom. Other people, by grace, don't have to go to the dark night of the soul and simply have what we all have, this innate knowing there's more than the story. And that's why the talk that I'm giving at the Ascension Retreat is called Finding Your Way Home. And it's not like right now I'm in my motor coach finding my way back home to South Carolina after 5 months on tour. It's finding your way to that inner state that never changes. Pure being, your true nature. That's home with a capital H. And home is right here. And the soul is right here. And the soul knows this. That's why we go to ascension retreats, because we know there's more and we are looking for it, but it's right here. I want to share something with you that came to me right before we started, especially for Suzanne. I know you live near Sedona. And I say this with the caveat that it is not to insult anyone, but I know you'll agree with what I'm saying. I went to Sedona on one of many visits. One of my first ones, a woman there asked for a reading. And at that time I had no waiting list. So I did the reading in person and we sat and I said, wow, you're so fortunate to live here in Sedona. And she said, well, it's not what I expected. She had moved there recently. And this is the line that really stunned me. She said, I want to say this in the most loving way possible, but this is where I hope you'll understand. She said, many people here are some of the most miserable people I've met because they're seeking and seeking and seeking and not finding. So she had obviously found a group like that, maybe radiating that herself. She attracted that to herself. And I kind of understood it because the previous day I had gone to a conference, not a conference, it was this impromptu event where hundreds of people stood in line for over an hour to be gazed at by a spiritual person. And for like 10 minutes, he never spoke. He just gazed at everyone. And I thought, isn't that interesting how we're going from one thing to another, trying to find that one thing that will help us wake up and rise up. And what the beautiful thing is, your ascension retreat, you have the speakers there and the people lined up that can take away that misery, that can help you. And that's what my talk is about, to find that home is right here. And then we go to these retreats to celebrate what we know, not because we're desperate. We go because we want to be with kindred spirits and we love being with like-minded people who get it. And we still continue to peel off pieces of the onion, because many people will say, you know, awakening is just a one-time thing. It's not. Awakening is when you finally realize there is this state in us that never changes. Home is the center of each of us that we all share. And yet our stories have layers and layers of conditioned belief that we're always doing our best to peel away.
Wow.
That was a lot.
No, I appreciate that, because I actually saw that guy gaze and I didn't get anything from that. But
I saw my first aura ever. I remember it went out to the side and I turned to the person next to me and I said, did you see that? So there was definitely something to it. But at that point in my story unfolding, I was just stunned that everybody, including me, would pay to be gazed at.
Well, there is a transmission sometimes from some beings, and then sometimes there's just, you know, look at me, you know, from that. But, you know, everyone's at their own level. But I like what you're saying about going back home to the self. And is that why we're here? But I think we're here to live from that place once we arrive home and be the integrated being connected to the divine self.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the evolution piece there. And we evolve by being who we really are, which is the presence of love, bringing love into everything we do, no matter what. And that's not the human way. It's the soul's way. Yeah.
That's what I was going to add. And so thank you for exactly what both of you just said. You don't have to. Being in stillness and meditation is profound and necessary. At the same time, the key is to be present all of the time. And a practice I like to do is just to place my hand on my heart and remind myself to be totally present in the moment, just like right now, how we're totally present with each other in this moment. And every moment that you're interacting with any other being, remind yourself you're talking to God, and to be so present with that person that your mind's not wandering off to these other thoughts, because that's, not being totally present. Even when you're out in nature, just to walk in God's creation and be so present with it that it elevates you into this eternal now moment. And that's where the magic lies. I like to say the here and the now, and the intersection is right in your heart space, just like the cross. And so anytime you're totally in your heart, present in the moment, that's where the magic lies. That's where the connection to source is.
You just
I
reminded me of
agree.
a technique or a tool. I don't know if you like to share those in these programs, but I know that
Yes,
people
we do like to share that. Please share.
You just reminded me of one. I have a new book coming out with Hay House in April. It's called The Awakened Way, Making the Shift to a Divinely Guided Life. And the first half is the information part, and the second part of the book is tools and techniques for living the awakened way. And Suzanne, your description of the cross led me to this very simple technique that I teach called the crossbar technique. And it requires awareness that I'm off balance, I'm out of sorts. And when you notice that you are not aligned with your true nature, once you know that peace is right here at the center of us, you simply take note that, the vertical axis is our direct connection to the heavens and to Mother Earth. But the horizontal axis is symbolic of our human story. So when you notice something knocks you off balance, could be somebody cuts you off in traffic and you take that angst home with you and you start sniping at other people around you. You grab onto that horizontal axis, but you put your hands, it's metaphorical, of course, as far out as you feel off balance. So if you're mildly off balance, that crossbar, you might be here. But if you've turned into a lunatic and it's not the real you, your hands will be way out here on that bar. And it's like a fulcrum. What you want to do is come in alignment with the center of you and that vertical axis. So you just take a deep breath, holding onto that bar. Notice I have one hand out, one hand in. That just gives me torque here, right? And you just take a breath and say, I'm coming into alignment. And you're aware of the story, and you just turn that bar. And the moment it aligns with your vertical axis, I always feel a whoosh as the story just comes into alignment. The energy just goes up and down at the same time. And it's accompanied by this big as I've just come right into the center of it. So I tell people, just grab that bar and say, I'm out of alignment. And it's just that simple to just turn the bar and we're back in balance.
Well, it made me sit up straighter for sure.
That's not bad.
Now you're more connected, Alan.
Well, I felt just the envisioning of that embodied. So, that is a key embodiment. People live, even spiritual, whatever they want to call them, in their out there mental emotion, and then being embodied somehow, even though, yes, of course, there's beings not embodied, but the gift of humans is the embodiment. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I love that, because I just led my first cruise, the Awaken Way cruise to Alaska, and I have another one already lined up for the Mediterranean. We're going to announce that in a week. But we had 14 hours of sharing with me and with my guide, Sanaya, lots of transmissions. And like you said, just being in that higher energy changes us, which is what's going to be so awesome about the Ascension Retreat. 3 days of being in that energy and embodying that higher energy. And the word that came up afterwards, embodiment, came up from a dear friend of mine, Annie Bond, who's a healer. She said that she did treatments, healings for 4 people who had been on the cruise with me. And she knew them well and had done treatments on them before. And without knowing that they'd been on the cruise, she noticed that each one of them was, in her words, embodying their soul more. And I was stunned. It was just this validation that when we join with like-minded people, like we will at the Ascension retreat and at like my next cruise, and we receive the information and, of course, energy of higher consciousness, we are more able to express our soul through this instrument, the body. That to me is what embodiment is, holding more of the soul's higher energy. My guides have said often, if you were to experience the fullness of who you really are, your higher self, the body could not handle it. It would just result in a puddle on the floor. That energy is so high. But through our own practice of contemplation, meditation, being in nature, as Suzanne was mentioning, through our own practice of holding higher vibrational thoughts, attending experiences where we're present with higher consciousness, we actually can take on more, embody more of higher consciousness. It's like going to the gym so that you can lift heavier weights. We can embody more of who we really are.
I do think, though, we can embody the fullness of the soul, because that's what the ascension process is. I mean, for me, that's my opinion, is activating the cellular structures to that high frequency. And yes, you have to work up to it. You're not going to go to the gym and lift, 500 pounds at the first time. It is a workout. But I do think eventually, at some level of evolution, we will be able to merge. Just my opinion. And I think that's
thank you for bringing up the transformation of the vehicle, right? Yeah. To be able to assimilate that higher light quotient. And some material, talks about light quotient. And I really like that, because you're only going to be able to activate as much in your cellular structure, your physical vessel, as your body can handle or integrate at that time. But, like you're both saying, as you increase your light quotient and your body assimilates, integrates, and then you take in more light, assimilate, integrate. I do believe in what people are saying about transforming the carbon-based being into a silicon-based being, into a crystalline light body, and that's our vessel for ascension.
Right. And that's happening over lifetimes, but I had physical confirmation of what happens when we embody that higher vibration. When I was channeling one time, I invited 5 ladies to my home who I did not know were all healers. And I told them, when I channel, turn up the love. That's the extra energy that makes this channeling more easy. Well, as I went into the channeling state and my eyes were closed, I didn't realize that all 5 of them were funneling with expertise, that higher energy at me. I started stuttering and shaking and literally fell off the chair. I was burned out. They had to pull me across the room, lay me out on the couch, and pull out this energy because my body couldn't handle it. So we did experiments from then on with my regularly gathering group, had them turn up the love when I was in that state and back it off a little bit. And each time they did, 3 times in one session, I would stutter and shake, and then it would back off. But I, as the Suzanne story, was in an expanded state. I wasn't aware that anybody was guiding the audience to do this, but we all saw the physical effects of that. So that's why we gradually have these experiences. And I know we could all state stories of people who've had that Kundalini awakening that really knocks them off balance because they weren't quite ready physically to handle that higher energy.
Well, talk about that practice of turning up the love. Is it just a matter of feeling? I mean, how do you actually do that? Maybe you do it.
Yeah. I have a video on my YouTube channel about this, in fact. And it's so simple. We do it all the time unconsciously, but simply think of someone or something you love with all your heart. I'm looking at my 2 little miniature dachshunds here with me in the room right now. And right with that, my heart just feels that surge of love. So you just generate that feeling and then visualize it. It's like a ray of light that you can control like a flashlight. Shine that outward from your heart with intention, where where your consciousness goes, energy flows, right? That's a known statement in this field.
Yeah.
So you just generate that feeling of love and direct it outwards, either like a laser beam right on somebody who's in the middle of an argument and really needs it, or on our whole world to raise the vibration.
Maybe we could do that at the retreat from the audience. Just do that for everybody. And yeah, I mean, it's okay to shake with that vibration, and just integrate it. And like you're saying, embody more soul. And it's a practice. And I think in a place like Sedona, where we'll be, there's actually a little lift from the earth itself
no doubt.
That. So what's your vision of the future? What's your own personal and planetary vision for where you're going, where we're all going? Does something come to you for that?
I always see my guides show me the spiral, ever onward, ever upward. So individually, as we note and take note of each of your own personal miracles and each awakening moment that you have, note that it builds up, it's exponential. And if we miss an opportunity on one cycle at whatever level we're at, we'll pick it up the next time around. People who attend my classes come back a year later and they say, boy, you really changed this. And I say, not that much. It's you who changed. So each one of us, as we really listen to the soul's urging and act on that, as we self-monitor and make improvements in our own way of being more loving, we are evolving. Those around us are. And I just feel that as a species, it's ever onward, ever upward, and we just keep at it. We remain diligent and committed, and hopefully at some point reach that tipping point where whoosh, it just ignites everybody around us.
Oh, you're on mute.
You're muted. There we go.
I said, what about those places where there's still war? I mean, I guess we can send love. I mean, we're here to send love. I mean, what do you recommend for?
Well, that's absolutely it. And not lose hope and know that we do make a difference by radiating that, and try to find ways where we can all find the common ground and just see others with compassion and understanding. Because as soon as we get into us versus them, we're in the story. And we've lost the oneness, the unity consciousness.
So you said in the beginning that we're coming to a point maybe where there's a 100th monkey effect, where boom, suddenly we're living in this other thing, and it's coming not too soon, though your guide said, but it's coming. And what is the best way to spread that? I mean, out to people. There's a lot of people who, when you were in the Navy, you had no idea this was possible. So
right.
There's a lot of people out there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the part of the Awaken Way teaching that I share includes the 3 E's. The 3 E's of living Awaken Way. Number 1, educate yourself. This is how we'll all change. And that's what the retreat does. And that's what programs like you're doing here, Alan and Suzanne, do. And that's what reading about near-death experiences and watching YouTube videos, educate yourself. The second one is experience for yourself the greater reality and the love that you really are, to find out you're not only human. And you do that through contemplative experiences and expanded states of awareness. And then the third E of really evolving, living the Awakened Way, is engage higher consciousness yourself. You're not alone. None of us are alone. You said earlier, Alan, that, spirits have probably been talking to us all along and we just didn't notice. Absolutely. Everybody has a spirit guide. We all have angels around us. So engage them, even if you don't yet hear anything back. Talk to spirit, talk to higher consciousness, ask for help, ask to be aware of their presence. So educate, experience, engage.
That's great. That is a great formula, because you have to, it's hard to have the experience. People have experience without the education and they don't know what's happened. But if we listen to these conversations and people who are connected to these higher realms, that's the education that allows us to experience more of what's possible.
And what's cool about the 3 E's is they're not linear. You don't first educate, then you experience, then you engage. It's like life itself And life is my acronym for love in full expression. Life is always evolving like a spiral, not linear. So you just attune constantly within and say, what do I do now? And that's the engaging part. What's next for me? Oh, maybe I'll read a new book. Oh, maybe I'll meditate and experience that. But you're already engaging just by doing that. So it's a dance, and it's a spiral dance.
Well, I just have to ask you anything about the fourth E, the extraterrestrials and the galactic connections.
I'll tell you what, I'm very interested in that and look forward to learning more at the retreat. But my guides made it very clear through one of my most stunning personal experiences. My path is help mainstream people come to know who we really are and just teach only love. So I'm going to educate myself, and I hope to have some kind of ET experience, and I will definitely engage them should that happen at the retreat, but that's not my path.
No, I appreciate that. No, of course, you're doing where you are helping people. It's like Matt Kahn. He's like, his thing is love, just pure love. And I mean, of course, we have to start there. I mean, that's like, we're not really human until we can feel that sort of energy, rise up out of the animal reactions and feel the humanity, which is the soul, really. And then we can explore the unknown. But I appreciate where you're coming from, and it's very important to have that grounding in the self.
It's funny that they say, you're mainstream, and yet I talk to dead people. So there's a relativity here, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you deal with past lives at all for other people?
Very infrequently. Some, I think I can remember 2 readings out of thousands where somebody's past life came up. So that also is not my path. I totally believe in them. I'm fascinated. I know that they're helpful, but that's just not my path.
So your path is basically teaching love, feeling,
and connecting regularly with loved ones across the veil, and using the evidence that comes through, the no other explanation evidence from connecting with people who loved ones feared were dead and gone, showing that they're not, to say, look, the reason that happened, the way it's possible is because you and I are not only human. So let's find that part of us that never changes, and you can learn to connect with your loved ones as well, and much more.
But when you're channeling, you're also tapping into this other realm.
Oh, absolutely. Higher and higher. Yeah.
And who are those beings? Yeah.
Those beings they call themselves Sanaya. Just like Esther Hicks has Abraham, a collective consciousness. Sanaya came to me in 2010, very masculine and feminine energy at the same time. And they said we are a collective consciousness of guides, and you will write and write and write. We have over 5,000 of those messages in the Daily Way app that's free, with new messages every morning, and then the transcripts of the longer sessions with them. They're made up of various beings. Many have never given me their names, but others come and go. I know for sure Archangel Michael's in that group. Jesus is in that group. Emmanuel Swedenborg, William James, and there are others, but mostly unnamed higher beings.
Well, do people transcend their personalities, though? I mean, they retain an essence. So how is that personality intact when it goes to these higher realms of awareness and consciousness?
The fast version of that is if people go to my website and there's a free ebook, but if you scroll down, a pop-up comes up, where do I begin? And in that is a link to a book called, actually it's on the gifts page of my website, Awakening. A very long explanation channeled from the guides on what the afterlife is like. And it talks about how we ascend through the various levels according to the soul's choices and will. So we can just choose to stay in the closest astral realm when we pass and create a home just like the one we had here, or the guides just said, or move higher. So we can always re-embody in non-physical form the story to interact with loved ones here who are thinking of us, sending us their love, and at the same time continue growing across the veil.
So just one more question. How much of the personality then is retained? Like your stepdaughter, Susan, of course, she's not just Susan. She's
That's right. That's right.
So,
As much as serves the greater good, she can just jump right back into the role of being Susan if it serves. Or I just sense her as a being of light.
It's very exciting how many aspects of creation there really are.
Isn't it unlimited? And that's what's exciting. I wake up every morning and just say, what's going to happen today? Yeah.
Right. So Suzanne, Ross, any final questions you want to ask?
Well, I love the title Messages of Hope, because I think that's really what these revelations about these other realms do for us, is give us hope of a life beyond this life, while still embracing every moment of this precious gift of life, but knowing that we are so expanded. One day, as I was immersed in meditation and also researching and reading, I went on a nature walk, and I intellectually knew that our souls were eternal, but it hit me in a moment of knowing this profound realization, and I spun around like doing a spiraling dance, and I was filled with so much ecstasy over all of these eternal adventures that my soul had the opportunity to go on. And so it expands your consciousness beyond this particular incarnation while still embracing this one, but it gives you that expandedness of knowing, that your consciousness is not contained within this body, and then it can expand as far out as you want it to, and you have an eternity of lifetimes. This isn't it. There's more. And so it gives us hope and faith.
Yeah, just occurred to me, Suzanne, that doesn't that lifetime you had as the Navy officer, doesn't that seem like another lifetime, or do you see a continuity?
It at times it absolutely seems like another time, but yet it's still, of course, part of the Suzanne story. It's in the field, and at appropriate times, I can slip into that commander role and take charge, but now in a very much more loving way. But it's really funny when one of my team members will say, Suzanne, you need to put on your commander's hat. And, we just step out and make things happen when we get in a crisis, but always in a loving way.
Because in a way, it's all one life. It's a continuity of the soul, which is the life of being, connected to source. So we've taken, well, thank you. What's your website again? Can we pull it up, the website, Suzanne?
Yeah, it's
Suzanne. Share if you like.
Also, everyone's definitely welcome to come to the Sedona Ascension Retreats, March 8th to the 10th. You can get tickets at SedonaSpiritualRetreats.com.
No, it's Sedona Ascension Retreats.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, Alan. Just want to make sure they go to the right website.
Sedona Ascension Retreats.com.
Thank you.
Yes. So, yes. Do you want to pull up some of that? And thank you for your time here, Susan.
Oh, you're so welcome. Right at the top of my homepage at SuzanneGiesemann.com is a link to this Ascension Retreat, because I'm excited. It's
there is Sedona Ascension Retreat, Linda Moulton Howe, Darryl and Bashar, Anita Marjani, William Henry, Matt Kahn, Suzanne, Giesemann, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Mark Anthony. This is really an all-star cast. So are you familiar with any of the people at this conference?
Oh, I know. I'm good friends with some of them, and I'm familiar with others. Really excited to be present and experience the energy of some whose books I've read, who I've seen on YouTube, and really be with them. So I'm excited as everybody else.
Well, you're going to be on a panel too, right, Suzanne? What panel?
I believe I have a keynote, a panel, a workshop, and leading people on an adventure out in the Sedona nature of leading a guided meditation. I was just corrected. My guides will be leading the meditation.
Okay. Great, great, great. And your website again is
It's my name, SuzanneGiesemann.com.
great. Thank you, thank you, thank you again. And
Thank you, Alan.
we'll do more. We're going to do more of these interviews, so stay tuned. I appreciate everyone tuning in to all our channels, and subscribe, come to the conference, look up Suzanne Giesemann's website, take a class, and let's start to really embody this soul essence that feels closer than ever, but in some ways, you know, there's more stuff maybe in the way. I don't know. It feels close, but yet still a little